Speaking of numbers, there's some new numbers out in the races in Missouri, both nationally and, of course, the Senate race. And we already saw some new numbers this weekend in the governor's race. Former House Speaker Tim Jones joining us right now with more on that. Tim, how are you?
Mark, I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. I assume you had a good weekend?
I did. Well, how could it have been any better with the news we got Friday afternoon? We finally had a Friday news dump, Mark, that wasn't by the Obama White House to try and hide something. We had a Friday October surprise that is, and I say this in all fairness because we're finally going to get to decide this election on what it should be decided upon, right? We're going to decide it upon policy, number one, with the Obamacare premium news 2 weeks ago. We can decide it upon that if you want the failed policies of the Obama-Clinton regime to continue. And number two, we can decide it upon corruption. And Donald Trump has been called a lot of things, but not corrupt. Why? Because he doesn't owe anything to anybody. He's not beholden to anybody. He hasn't made his career out of bilking taxpayers and ingratiating himself by giving away America's secrets to our enemies, whereas Hillary Clinton has. And it's amazing to me, as you just said, we've got 650,000 new emails to look through, and the Clintons somehow, in their brilliant, I guess, in their brilliance, right, because they're smarter than everybody else, they can just tell everybody, oh, nothing to see here, move on. How do they know?
Right. No, I agree completely.
Well, actually, Mark, they do know. They could go ahead and tell us what's in those emails, right?
They could.
And then we could move on.
Governor Pence brought that up this morning. I thought it was a great point. Hillary, if you want it all on the table, just have Huma release all the emails. They belong
right
to her.
Huma could avoid warrants and depositions and testimony and hearings for the next several months. She could voluntarily say, I'm releasing all of them right now. And then we could see what is in them. But instead, Mark, people have a choice, right? And I think this is where the independents come in, and you're going to see this in some of the polling that I'm referencing. People are sitting back now and going, for the first time in history, we could elect a person who is under continued federal investigation and could be indicted while occupying the most important office in the world.
Right. And I don't know how anybody could do that. I know there are people that dislike Donald Trump for one reason or another, but why you would elect someone under this cloud of suspicion? Because this is what it comes down to for me. I can think back in my life, and I quite frankly, I may know one person because of my professional job prior to this. I may know one or two people who've even ever been under an FBI investigation. I mean, how many people do you know in your life who've been investigated by the FBI?
Well, and Mark, this has been going on for not a few days, not a few weeks, not a few months. This has been going on. I was looking at the news reports over the weekend, and they're flashing back to press clips from about 2 years ago. That's how long the Clinton crime cartel has dragged this out. And Mark, that when you don't want the full truth to be known, what do? Well, I'm a former prosecutor, and I've been on the other side as I've done some criminal defense work as well, and I know as a former prosecutor that what you do is you delay. You hope that evidence gets stale. You hope that people's memories go missing.
Right.
And like the Clintons, you add to the body count as well, right? Along the way. You get rid of the witnesses.
Well, it could be. In fact, nobody's seen Huma in a few days, so hopefully she's in good health. Let's talk about the poll news in Missouri.
So, Mark, the poll that came out yesterday afternoon is that first they did this poll first tested Donald Trump in Missouri. So I want to say that so folks don't think I'm saying that he's up this nationally. This is his numbers in Missouri. Trump, and it's a dramatic number. That's why I put that caveat out there. Trump is now up double digits, Mark, in Missouri. He's up 14 points. And most notably, I said I would get back to this, he is up huge amongst independents. So I'm talking, not just like the media wants to say, not just uneducated white guys. And what they're talking about there are folks who are in the labor industry, mainly the laborers, right?
Right.
That's who they're they don't want to say that, but that's who they're referring to, which is a huge smack at the hardworking men and women who belong to unions. So he's up 14, and he's up big amongst independents. That's independent men, independent women, independent everybody, okay? He's up like 3-1 in Missouri on that. So why is this relevant to the rest of the races? Well, it's relevant, Mark, because there is a magic number at some point that we all talk about in inside political circles where the top of the ticket, whoever it is that year, this year it happens to be presidential, happens to be Donald Trump. At some point, if the top of the ticket gets so high, what that means is the base is dramatically energized and dramatically enlarged, and so the ranks are swelling. And as you get, that translates into what? It translates into more and more people who identify as Republicans going to the polls and voting on the Republican line. So they're not only going to vote for Donald Trump, but it's going to be more and more people voting for all the other Republican folks as well. And
right.
So Roy Blunt in the same poll is up 3 points. And the race that seemed to be have just this spread of 4 to 8 points depending on the poll, the governor's race. The governor's race had kind of been stuck, depending on the poll, between 4 and 8 points. There was an outlier a few weeks ago that had it much closer, but then it sort of went back to this 4 to 8 point spread. That has been erased, and Chris Koster is now up only 1 point over Eric Greitens for governor. So
and that matches the St. Louis Post-Dispatch poll as well, right?
It matches a lot of the polls.
Right.
It matches these various polls I receive. It matches the more public domain polls like the Post-Dispatch. It matches a lot of them. And so, Mark, this plus 14 for Trump, if that maintains or grows higher, then the corollary is going to be the Roy Blunt. The Roy Blunt division is going to get greater. He's going to be up higher over his opponent. And it means that Chris Koster's lead will continue to shrink. You know, why has Chris Koster been so hard to take on? Well, because he's been in the public domain for many more years than Eric Greitens. He's got much more ingrained name ID. He was a Republican, so a lot of Republicans remember him as a conservative-type person. He's now a Democrat, but he has maintained the NRA rating. He's endorsed by all the agricultural groups, which generally favor Republicans now in this state. So it takes more to chip away at that lead. So the greater the Trump lead, the greater the Blunt lead, the lesser the Koster lead, and potentially Greitens moving into the positive territory.
Yeah, this is something interesting too, Tim, as you look down in some of the internal numbers in this poll. For between Trump and Clinton, it breaks it down by city. And I was looking at that earlier. You know, Donald Trump, the only place in the state, which isn't surprising, that Hillary Clinton is winning is Kansas City. In Kansas City, she's only winning by 1 percentage point. Everywhere else in the state, she's losing, including St. Louis, which she's losing by 3 points to Donald Trump.
Isn't that remarkable?
And it's but those results, particularly in St. Louis, are reversed for some reason in that Senate race. I mean,
I'll tell you why.
Blunt is down a little bit,
Yeah. So, Mark, what's happening is Donald Trump is correct. You know, the media has been bashing him and saying he makes stuff up and he doesn't know what's going on, and it's just all fantasy. It's not. It's the truth. When Donald Trump says there's this group of new voters, this insurgent group of new people registering, going to the polls, Mark, those people are what he's referring to. They're giving him that margin. Now, Mark, a lot of these people, they've never – just put aside the fact they've never voted Republican. A lot of these people have never voted before. And so why are they registering while they're voting? Donald Trump. They don't really know any of these other people, believe it or not. They may sort of know who's running for governor. They've probably heard of Roy Blunt before, but they're registering because of that. Now, as the Trump number gets higher, these people start learning, there's a lot of other stuff on the ballot. And I would tell people, you better go download your ballot before you go vote, folks, because I did mine last week. I downloaded the sample ballot. It's 2 pages long. There's a lot of stuff on it.
There is.
So, Mark, their first impetus is to vote Trump. Then they'll start looking at the other people, and I predict that Roy's numbers are going to get greater, that Eric Greitens' numbers are going to get better. All the other statewide, Mark, by the way, Ashcroft, Schmidt, Hawley, they've all been winning all along. Their numbers are going to get higher. The only other close race is the Carnahan-Parson race, and that's very similar to the Coster-Greitens race because, again, there you have a Carnahan. You have a name that people know.
Right.
And whether they like him or not, they know it. And so you got to have name ID before you have preference. Well, now we're getting down to the preference point in the campaign. The last 10 days, we're well within the preference point, and that's why first they're voting for Trump. That's why his numbers shoot up faster first. Then they start looking down the ballot, and because they're voting for Trump, they go, well, he's running as a Republican. There must be something to that, so I'm going to vote for these other Republicans as well, and that's why I predict that Roy Blunt will pull this out. Eric Greitens has a heck of a shot to be our next governor. Hawley, Schmidt, and Ashcroft are going to win, and Mike Parson could still have a shot to defeat Russ Carnahan.
Tim, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate it. Look forward to having you on again next week.
Absolutely, Mark, and we're going to have a fun, exciting week. I'm just making that prediction now.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, Tim Jones there, former House Speaker. One. Let me get back to the number that Tim mentioned inside of that interview. In the state of Missouri, if you break it down by party, Donald Trump has 90% Republican support, 12% Democrat support, and 53% of nonpartisan or independent voters. And Hillary Clinton has 84% of Democrats, 6% Republicans, and only 29% of independents or nonpartisan voters. So Missouri may not be a model for other states in the country, but that's a trend. That's a huge advantage and we saw it in that Ohio poll we talked about last week. There's an advantage for Trump when it comes to people who consider themselves independents, and I can't help but to believe that number's not going to grow given what's happened. All right.